This episode of Tank Academy is dedicated to scout tanks. We'll tell you about the general rules of their use and give recommendations that will help you on the battlefield, as well as suggesting training options that will help create effective scouts for your clan or company. The first rule to remember is this: a player does not scout for themselves, but for the whole team. Their task is to provide intel so that their allies will be able to use it immediately. For example, effective and timely detection of enemy units helps a commander gauge the number of enemy vehicles on the flanks and to influence decisions regarding further action. By using artillery, a team will be able to destroy a group of enemy tanks that are not aware of its own vulnerability. This helps teams gain superiority over a given area. Remember that a scout supported by Allied artillery is one of the most dangerous opponents in World of Tanks. Depending on how the situation develops during the course of a battle, any tank can become a scout. That's why every player should know scouting tricks and ploys, not just drivers of the T-52 or the Battalion 25T, tanks that are often used as scouts in tank company battles and across the battlefields of the global map. Exercise 1. Take Sand River, a map that features lots of sand dunes that are safe at slow speeds, but very treacherous at high speed. The purpose of this exercise is to learn how to select a route and a speed limit that you can pass through the most dangerous places without damaging the suspension. At the start of our training, let's ride together over the dunes at the highest possible speed and locate the places where novices get stuck. Now, let's go through the same route but in a group of 3 and mark the best time on the route. This will be the benchmark for all others to meet. Let's repeat the same route in a group of 3 until all trainees manage to complete the route without any stops and within the set time. Tip 1. Use modules like enhanced torsion bars or enhanced Christie suspension to increase the dependability of the tracks. It's said that prevention is better than treatment. That's why we recommend to carefully study all dangerous places on maps for future battles and to find the best ways of avoiding them. Tip 2. You must quickly gain and keep your speed going. To help, you can use Remove Speed Governor and Gasoline. To keep your high rate of speed, you'll have to select the best route. Navigate around areas with soft ground or areas that involve excessive climbing. Also, you should avoid destroying obstacles or knocking down trees. Exercise 2. Prohorovka map. Let's divide the trainees into 2 teams. The first team will include only scouts, and the second team will be made up of medium and heavy tanks with the most accurate guns and high explosive shells that guarantee damage to the enemy. We'll align members of the second team between the base and the beginning of the slope leading to the hollow, while one tank will be sent to the center of the map to detect enemies. The task of this team will be to destroy the scouts that make a mistake and become visible on top of the hill. The trainees from the first team go one by one along the slope of the central hill to secure the detection of all tanks from the second team. Each subsequent tank should start moving only after all of the marks left by the enemy team from the previous scout have disappeared. The training shall continue until all of the scouts complete their tasks without mistakes. Tip 1. On open terrain maps, move along mountain ridges and only show the top of your turret from time to time. This will be enough for scouting and will save you from destruction. Your task will be to get to the top of the hill for just a moment without showing the hull and immediately get back to concealment. Tip 2. When scouting from tops of hills, do not wait for enemy tanks to be detected. They appear with a slight delay. In other words, you should come to the top of a hill and hide immediately from the line of fire, and enemy tanks will still become visible. Exercise 3. Let's take a look at the Siegfried line map. The trainees shall be divided into 2 teams. 3 heavy or medium tanks with accurate guns will take positions in the field near a bunker in Sector E2. Their task is to attack a detected enemy with high explosive shells. The scouts of the other team will move one by one along the top of a low hill until they are detected. After detection, their task will be to keep their speed while retreating and using the terrain to avoid enemy fire. Tip 1. Try not to constantly wag back and forth while moving. Instead, alternate between subtle turns that are difficult to notice and do not influence your speed, as well as sudden dashes from side to side. Keep in mind that it takes an average player about 3 seconds to aim a gun. Take this into account and make sharp turns once every 3 seconds to affect the enemy's ability to hit you. Use the rest of the time to gain speed. Tip 2. When moving within the line of sight of enemy tanks, try to move across the direction they're aiming and change direction only after they've fired. Exercise 4. Now let's use the steps map as a training option, where we'll have heavy and medium tanks from the second team concealed behind the stones in Sector C5. The task of the first team is to break through the shelter behind the railroad in Sector A8. As in the previous case, a group is advised to use high explosive shells to avoid ricochets and cases of non-penetration. This skill will be especially useful in case a scout has to break through the location of the enemy artillery, when one needs to stay in battle as long as possible and to avoid enemy fire. Tip 1. One can break through the artillery if you strike at the right moment in the course of a collision of Allied and enemy tanks. If you use these tactics, no one will be there to stop you since all enemy vehicles will be too busy with the battle. You can start moving up from the back of the Allied group, and such a breakthrough will be very effective and can cause panic and confusion amongst the enemy. Tip 2. If you're being followed, try to bring enemies into the line of tank fire on your team. Such an opportunity is often provided on the map of Redshire, where nestled and concealed amongst houses, Allied tanks can easily destroy enemy tanks that fall for the chase while staying away from an enemy's view. Exercise 5. In order to study passive scouting options on any map, it's recommended to organize the training as follows. Put all scouts in the first team and form the second team around medium and heavy tanks that will be aligned in a chain 150 meters from each other. The task of the first team will be to study all possible places for passive scouting and means of escape. During the first stage of the training, scout tanks shall take all appropriate positions. For example, groups of double bushes or bushes located close to the center of the map. Before a player is detected, they should work out a detailed retreat route that provides the highest speed and turn the tank in that direction. If detected, move away from enemy fire as quickly as possible. It doesn't matter how you do it, as long as this retreat keeps your scout alive and in the battle. The objective of the second team will be to detect concealed enemies and destroy them with the first volley. They shall not chase the scouts, as their task is to make the scout understand the distance at which they can be detected and the time required for a retreat. If a scout has survived the first volley, he shall head off to the new line and repeat the procedure of selecting positions and escape routes. This ends another lesson of Tank Academy. Now that we've finished addressing the various ways of using scout tanks in battle, it's up to you to start practicing. Remember, only regular training, rehearsals, and constant monitoring of your knowledge will do you any good. Accurate performance of training exercises is a formula for success, both for you and your teammates.